Good morning, Karinka. This is an adult calling therapy channel. Hi, Miss Night Owl. This is an adult calling channel for teens and adults, not intended for kids under 13, but it's devotions everybody can watch. And during the stupid quarantine, no one's going to be turned away. How are ya? My chair's low. I try to get my chair up again, but it wouldn't go. I did not want to get up today. I know. I know. It's just like, hey, how you doing when you see somebody? I know how you're feeling. Okay. Oh, I'm supposed to keep this open. Otherwise, it won't get sent. I so want that book. Oh. We'll start in a few minutes. It's Arnie's turn to read. And then we'll listen to the Bible being read. So, are you. My iPad never charged. Seriously, why? I was gonna use you. There we go. I got it in the right spot. What? Okay. We will get started. I didn't write nothing down, but it doesn't take long to write it down. Let's plug this one in. Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us for our trespasses. Forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not to temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Please look after my friend Vicky. Just make her feel better. Amen. I had to stop talking. I almost cried. I don't know why. All right. I do that sometimes when I'm praying for somebody. I just about cry and then I have to stop. I found it. Oh, today's my niece's birthday. She's old now. She's 30. I don't know how old she is. Is she 30? Oh, she's 31, I think. Yeah, she was born in 89. Let me start to write things up. You know what? Let's just go. I can't look at the chat, so. Oh, you want to know what my emoji could be? Watch. No. But I have to, Oh, that's the wrong one. What the heck? It must have moved when I clicked on his... Seriously. Okay. We're going to be listening to Arnie reading Jesus Calling and Jesus Lives.
Today's devotion for March 24th, coming from
That's
Jesus
Maya.
Calling and Jesus Lives. This is the time in your life when you must learn to let go of loved ones, of possessions, of control, in order to let go of something that is precious to you. You need to rest in my presence. When you are complete, take time to bask in the light of my love. As you relax more and more, your grasping hand gradually opens up, releasing your prized possession into my care. You can feel secure even in the midst of cataclysmic changes through awareness of my continual presence. The one who never leaves you is the same one who never changes. I am the same yesterday, today, and forever. Maya, what are you doing?
He's all rolling all over the place.
As you release more and more things into my care, remember that I never let go of your hand. Herein lies your security, which no one and no circumstances can take from you. Then Psalm 89, verse 15, Hebrew 13, verse 8, Isaiah 41, verse 13. Psalm 89, verse 15. Blessed are those who have learned to acclaim you, who walk in the light of your presence, Lord. Hebrew 13, verse 8. Jesus Christ is the same yesterday and today and forever. Isaiah 41, verse 13. For I am the Lord your God, who takes hold of your right hand and says to you, do not fear, I will help you. Through difficulties around in this world, rejoice that I am ever present with you. I can enable you to cope with any and all circumstances, strengthening you as you look trustingly to me. No matter how hopeless your situation may seem, I assure you that all things are possible with me. I am the truth, and therefore I am true to all my promises. They provide a rock-solid foundation on which you can live and more and have your being. Since I am the living word, affirming your trust in my promises is an excellent way to draw near me. As you bask in the beauty of my presence, you may find yourself wanting to praise me. Do not restrain this holy impulse. Instead, give it voice while you are worshiping me. New hope will grow within you. Hope in me, for you will again praise me for all the help of my presence. God is our refuge and strength, and ever-present help in trouble. Psalm 46, verse 1. Jesus looked at them and said, with man this is impossible, but not with God. All things are possible with God. Mark 10, verse 27. In him we live and move and have our being. As some of your own poets have said, we are his offspring. Acts 17, verse 28. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. John 1, verse 1. We are you in despair, O my soul, and why have you become disturbed within me? Hope in God, for I shall again praise him for the help of his presence. Psalm 42, verse 5. And that's today's devotion, coming from Jesus Calling and Jesus Lives, for March 24th.
I want to try something. I put a piece of tape. Oh, it does work there. Yeah, it does work. Okay. I put a piece of tape against it. So if I need to, against my tripod, if I need to prop up my phone, I know that works. But I don't need to. Let's. Okay. Let's listen to Genesis. We're doing 5 chapters today because, it's 9 o'clock already. I always figured I had to mute this thing at night because otherwise I hear the notifications on and it's loud. One time I felt like I jumped out of my skin because it went off.
Chapter 39. Joseph in Potiphar's house. When Joseph was taken to Egypt by the Ishmaelite traders, he was purchased by Potiphar, an Egyptian officer. Potiphar was captain of the guard for Pharaoh, the king of Egypt. The Lord was with Joseph, so he succeeded in everything he did as he served in the home of his Egyptian master. Potiphar noticed this and realized that the Lord was with Joseph, giving him success in everything he did. This pleased Potiphar, so he soon made Joseph his personal attendant. He put him in charge of his entire household and everything he owned. From the day Joseph was in charge of his master's household and property, the Lord began to bless Potiphar's household for Joseph's sake. All his household affairs ran smoothly, and his crops and livestock flourished. So Potiphar gave Joseph complete administrative responsibility over everything he owned. With Joseph there, he didn't worry about a thing, except what kind of food to eat. Joseph was a very handsome and well-built young man, and Potiphar's wife soon began to look at him lustfully. "Come and sleep with me," she demanded. But Joseph refused. "Look," he told her, "my master trusts me with everything in his entire household. No one here has more authority than I do. He has held back nothing from me except you, because you are his wife. How could I do such a wicked thing? It would be a great sin against God." She kept putting pressure on Joseph day after day, but he refused to sleep with her, and he kept out of her way as much as possible. One day, however, no one else was around when he went in to do his work. She came and grabbed him by his cloak, demanding, "Come on, sleep with me." Joseph tore himself away, but he left his cloak in her hand as he ran from the house. When she saw that she was holding his cloak, and he had fled, she called out to her servants. Soon all the men came running. "Look," she said, "my husband has brought this Hebrew slave here to make fools of us. He came into my room to rape me, but I screamed. When he heard me scream, he ran outside and got away, but he left his cloak behind with me." She kept the cloak with her until her husband came home. Then she told him her story. "That Hebrew slave you've brought into our house tried to come in and fool around with me," she said. "But when I screamed, he ran outside, leaving his cloak with me." Joseph put in prison. Potiphar was furious when he heard his wife's story about how Joseph had treated her. So he took Joseph and threw him into the prison where the king's prisoners were held, and there he remained. But the Lord was with Joseph in the prison, and showed him his faithful love. And the Lord made Joseph a favorite with the prison warden. Before long, the warden put Joseph in charge of all the other prisoners and over everything that happened in the prison. The warden had no more worries because Joseph took care of everything. The Lord was with him and caused everything he did to succeed.
Yep.
Chapter 40. Joseph interprets 2 dreams. Sometime later, Pharaoh's chief cupbearer and chief baker offended their royal master. Pharaoh became angry with these 2 officials, and he put them in the prison where Joseph was, in the palace of the captain of the guard. They remained in prison for quite some time, and the captain of the guard assigned them to Joseph, who looked after them. While they were in prison, Pharaoh's cupbearer and baker each had a dream one night, and each dream had its own meaning. When Joseph saw them the next morning, he noticed that they both looked upset. "Why do you look so worried today?" he asked them. And they replied, "We both had dreams last night, but no one can tell us what they mean." "Interpreting dreams is God's business," Joseph replied. "Go ahead and tell me your dreams." So the chief cupbearer told Joseph his dream first. "In my dream," he said, "I saw a grapevine in front of me. The vine had 3 branches that began to bud and blossom, and soon it produced clusters of ripe grapes. I was holding Pharaoh's wine cup in my hand, so I took a cluster of grapes and squeezed the juice into the cup. Then I placed the cup in Pharaoh's hand." "This is what the dream means," Joseph said. "The 3 branches represent 3 days. Within 3 days, Pharaoh will lift you up and restore you to your position as his chief cupbearer. And please remember me and do me a favor when things go well for you. Mention me to Pharaoh so he might let me out of this place. For I was kidnapped from my homeland, the land of the Hebrews, and now I'm here in prison, but I did nothing to deserve it." When the chief baker saw that Joseph had given the first dream such a positive interpretation, he said to Joseph, "I had a dream too. In my dream, there were 3 baskets of white pastries stacked on my head. The top basket contained all kinds of pastries for Pharaoh, but the birds came and ate them from the basket on my head." "This is what the dream means," Joseph told him. "The 3 baskets also represent 3 days. 3 days from now, Pharaoh will lift you up and impale your body on a pole. Then..."
Uh-oh. Let's pause it for a minute, because it won't play now. Give it a couple minutes. I don't know.
"Birds will come and peck away at your flesh." Pharaoh's birthday came 3 days later, and he prepared a banquet for all his officials and staff. He summoned his chief cupbearer and chief baker to join the other officials. He then restored the chief cupbearer to his former position, so he could again hand Pharaoh his cup. But Pharaoh impaled the chief baker just as Joseph had predicted when he interpreted his dream. Pharaoh's chief cupbearer, however, forgot all about Joseph, never giving him another thought.
That's not
Chapter
right.
41. Pharaoh's Dreams. 2 full years later, Pharaoh dreamed that he was standing on the bank of the Nile River. In his dream, he saw 7 fat, healthy cows come up out of the river and begin grazing in the marsh grass. Then he saw 7 more cows come up behind them from the Nile, but these were scrawny and thin. These cows stood beside the fat cows on the riverbank. Then the scrawny, thin cows ate the 7 healthy fat cows. At this point in the dream, Pharaoh woke up. But he fell asleep again and had a second dream. This time he saw 7 heads of grain, plump and beautiful, growing on a single stalk. Then 7 more heads of grain appeared, but these were shriveled and withered by the east wind. And these thin heads swallowed up the 7 plump, well-formed heads. Then Pharaoh woke up again and realized it was a dream. The next morning, Pharaoh was very disturbed by the dreams, so he called for all the magicians and wise men of Egypt. When Pharaoh told them his dreams, not one of them could tell him what they meant. Finally, the king's chief cupbearer spoke up. "Today I have been reminded of my failure," he told Pharaoh. "Some time ago you were angry with the chief baker and me, and you imprisoned us in the palace of the captain of the guard. One night the chief baker and I each had a dream, and each dream had its own meaning. There was a young Hebrew man with us in the prison who was a slave of the captain of the guard. We told him our dreams, and he told us what each of our dreams meant. And everything happened just as he had predicted. I was restored to my position as cupbearer, and the chief baker was executed and impaled on a pole." Pharaoh sent for Joseph at once, and he was quickly brought from the prison. After he shaved and changed his clothes, he went in and stood before Pharaoh. Then Pharaoh said to Joseph, "I had a dream last night, and no one here can tell me what it means. But I have heard that when you hear about a dream, you can interpret it." "It is beyond my power to do this," Joseph replied. "But God can tell you what it means and set you at ease." So Pharaoh told Joseph his dream. "In my dream," he said, "I was standing on the bank of the Nile River, and I saw 7 fat, healthy cows come up out of the river and begin grazing in the marsh grass. But then I saw 7 sick-looking cows, scrawny and thin, come up after them. I've never seen such sorry-looking animals in all the land of Egypt. These thin, scrawny cows ate the 7 fat cows, but afterward you wouldn't have known it, for they were still as thin and scrawny as before. Then I woke up. Then I fell asleep again, and I had another dream. This time I saw 7 heads of grain, full."
Aviator fam. Down to I know you. Hi.
And beautiful, growing on a single stalk. Then 7 more heads of grain appeared, but these were blighted, shriveled, and withered by the east wind. And the shriveled heads swallowed the 7 healthy
I knew it, Izzy.
heads. I told these dreams to the magicians, but no one could tell me what they mean. Joseph responded, "Both of Pharaoh's dreams mean the same thing. God is telling Pharaoh in advance what he is about to do. The 7 healthy cows and the 7 healthy heads of grain both represent 7 years of prosperity. The 7 thin, scrawny cows that came up later and the
I knew it
7
was you.
thin heads of grain withered by the east wind represent 7 years of famine. This will happen just as I have described it, for God has revealed to Pharaoh in advance what he is about to do. The next 7 years will be a period of great prosperity throughout the land of Egypt. But afterward there will be 7 years of famine so great that all the prosperity will be forgotten in Egypt. Famine will destroy the land. This famine will be so severe that even the memory of the good years will be erased. As for having 2 similar dreams, it means that these events have been decreed by God, and he will soon make them happen."
No kidding. Of course I know that.
Therefore, Pharaoh should find an intelligent and wise man and put him in charge of the entire land of Egypt. Then Pharaoh should appoint supervisors over the land and let them collect 1/5 of all the crops during the 7 good years. Have them gather all the food produced in the good years that are just ahead and bring it to Pharaoh's storehouses. Store it away and guard it so there will be food in the cities. That way there will be enough to eat when the 7 years of famine come to the land of Egypt. Otherwise, this famine will destroy the land. Joseph made ruler of Egypt. Joseph's suggestions were well received by Pharaoh and his officials. So Pharaoh asked his officials, "Can we find anyone else like this man so obviously filled with the Spirit of God?" Then Pharaoh said to Joseph, "Since God has revealed the meaning of the dreams to you, clearly no one else is as intelligent or wise as you are. You will be in charge of my court, and all my people will take orders from you. Only I, sitting on my throne, will have a rank higher than yours." Pharaoh said to Joseph, "I hereby put you in charge of the entire land of Egypt." Then Pharaoh removed his signet ring from his hand and placed it on Joseph's finger. He dressed him in fine linen clothing and hung a gold chain around his neck. Then he had Joseph ride in the chariot reserved for his second in command, and wherever Joseph went, the command was shouted, "Kneel down." So Pharaoh put Joseph in charge of all Egypt. And Pharaoh said to him, "I am Pharaoh, but no one will lift a hand or foot in the entire land of Egypt without your approval." Then Pharaoh gave Joseph a new Egyptian name, Zaphenath-Paneah. He also gave him a wife, whose name was Asenath. She was the daughter of Potipharah, the priest of On. So Joseph took charge of the entire land of Egypt. He was 30 years old when he began serving in the court of Pharaoh, the king of Egypt. And when...
Hi, Arnie. You missed everything. I'm on to the Bible reading.
Joseph left Pharaoh's presence, he inspected the entire land of Egypt. As predicted, for 7 years the land produced bumper crops. During those years, Joseph gathered all the crops grown in Egypt and stored the grain from the surrounding fields in the cities. He piled up huge amounts of grain like sand on the seashore. Finally, he stopped keeping records because there was too much to measure. During this time, before the first of the famine years, 2 sons were born to Joseph and his wife Asenath, the daughter of Potipharah, the priest of On.
I'm sorry.
Joseph named his older son Manasseh, for he said, "God has made me forget all my troubles and everyone in my father's family." Joseph named his second son Ephraim, for he said, "God has made me fruitful in this land of my grief." At last, the 7 years of bumper crops throughout the land of Egypt came to an end. Then the 7 years of famine began, just as Joseph had predicted. The famine also struck all the surrounding countries, but throughout Egypt there was plenty of food. Eventually, however, the famine spread throughout the land of Egypt as well. And when the people cried out to Pharaoh for food, he told them, "Go to Joseph and do whatever he tells you." So with severe famine everywhere, Joseph opened up the storehouses and distributed grain to the Egyptians, for the famine was severe throughout the land of Egypt. And people from all around came to Egypt to buy grain from Joseph because the famine was severe throughout the world. Chapter 42. Joseph's brothers go to Egypt. When Jacob heard that grain was available in Egypt, he said to his sons, "Why are you standing around looking at one another? I have heard there is grain in Egypt. Go down there and buy enough grain to keep us alive. Otherwise we'll die." So Joseph's 10 older brothers went down to Egypt to buy grain. But Jacob wouldn't let Joseph's younger brother Benjamin go with them, for fear some harm might come to him. So Jacob's sons arrived in Egypt along with others to buy food, for the famine was in Canaan as well. Since Joseph was governor of all Egypt and in charge of selling grain to all the people, it was to him that his brothers came. When they arrived, they bowed before him with their faces to the ground. Joseph recognized his brothers instantly, but he pretended to be a stranger and spoke harshly to them. "Where are you from?" he demanded. "From the land of Canaan," they replied. "We have come to buy food." Although Joseph recognized his brothers, they didn't recognize him, and he remembered the dreams he'd had about them many years before. He said to them, "You are spies. You have come to see how vulnerable our land has become." "No, my lord," they exclaimed. "Your servants have simply come to buy food. We are all brothers, members of the same family. We are honest men, sir. We are not spies." "Yes, you are," Joseph insisted. "You have come to see how vulnerable our land has become." "Sir," they said, "there are actually 12 of us. We, your servants, are all brothers, sons of a man living in the land of Canaan. Our youngest brother is back there with our father right now, and one of our brothers is no longer with us." But Joseph insisted. "As I said, you are spies. This is how I will test your story. I swear by the life of Pharaoh that you will never leave Egypt unless your youngest brother comes here. One of you must go and get your brother. I'll keep the rest of you here in prison. Then we'll find out whether or not your story is true. By the life of Pharaoh, if it turns out that you don't have a younger brother, then I'll know you are spies." So Joseph put them all in prison for 3 days. On the 3rd day, Joseph said to them, "I am a God-fearing man. If you do as I say, you will live. If you really are honest men, choose one of your brothers to remain in prison. The rest of you may go home with grain for your starving families. But you must bring your youngest brother back to me. This will prove that you are telling the truth, and you will not die." To this they agreed. Speaking among themselves, they said, "Clearly we are being punished because of what we did to Joseph long ago. We saw his anguish when he pleaded for his life, but we wouldn't listen. That's why we're in this trouble." "Didn't I tell you not to sin against the boy?" Reuben asked. "But you wouldn't listen, and now we have to answer for his blood." Of course, they didn't know that Joseph understood them, for he had been speaking to them through an interpreter. Now he turned away from them and began to weep. When he regained his composure, he spoke to them again. Then he chose Simeon from among them and had him tied up right before their eyes. Joseph then ordered his servants to fill the men's sacks with grain, but he also gave secret instructions to return each brother's payment at the top of his sack. He also gave them supplies for their journey home. So the brothers loaded their donkeys with the grain and headed for home. But when they stopped for the night and one of them opened his sack to get grain for his donkey, he found his money in the top of his sack. "Look," he exclaimed to his brothers, "my money has been returned. It's here in my sack." Then their hearts sank. Trembling, they said to each other, "What has God done to us?" When the brothers came to their father Jacob in the land of Canaan, they told him everything that had happened to them. "The man who is governor of the land spoke very harshly to us," they told him. "He accused us of being spies, scouting the land." But we said, "We are honest men, not spies. We are 12 brothers, sons of one father. One brother is no longer with us, and the youngest is at home with our father in the land of Canaan." Then the man who is governor of the land told us, "This is how I will find out if you are honest men. Leave one of your brothers here with me, and take grain for your starving families and go on home. But you must bring your youngest brother back to me. Then I will know you are honest men and not spies. Then I will give you back your brother, and you may trade freely in the land." As they emptied out their sacks, there in each man's sack was the bag of money he had paid for the grain. The brothers and their father were terrified when they saw the bags of money. Jacob exclaimed, "You are robbing me of my children. Joseph is gone, Simeon is gone, and now you want to take Benjamin too. Everything is going against me." Then Reuben said to his father, "You may kill my 2 sons if I don't bring Benjamin back to you. I'll be responsible for him, and I promise to bring him back." But Jacob replied, "My son will not go down with you. His brother Joseph is dead, and he is all I have left. If anything should happen to him on your journey, you would send this grieving white-haired man to his grave."
Wow.
Chapter 43. The brothers
This is the last one, guys. Oops, sorry.
returned to Egypt. But the famine continued to ravage the land of Canaan. When the grain they had brought from Egypt was almost gone, Jacob said to his sons, "Go back and buy us a little more food." But Judah said, "The man was serious when he warned us. You won't see my face again unless your brother is with you. If you send Benjamin with us, we will go down and buy more food. But if you don't let Benjamin go, We won't go either. Remember, the man said, you won't see my face again unless your brother is with you. Why were you so cruel to me? Jacob moaned. Why did you tell him you had another brother? The man kept asking us questions about our family, they replied. He asked, is your father still alive? Do you have another brother? So we answered his questions. How could we know? He would say, bring your brother down here. Judah said to his father, send the boy with me, and we will be on our way. Otherwise, we will all die of starvation, and not only we, but you and our little ones. I personally guarantee his safety. You may hold me responsible if I don't bring him back to you. Then let me bear the blame forever. If we hadn't wasted all this time, we could have gone and returned twice by now. So their father Jacob finally said to them, if it can't be avoided, then at least do this. Pack your bags with the best products of this land. Take them down to the man as gifts. Balm, honey, gum, aromatic resin, pistachio nuts, and almonds. Also take double the money that was put back in your sacks, as it was probably someone's mistake. Then take your brother and go back to the man. May God Almighty give you mercy as you go before the man, so that he will release Simeon and let Benjamin return. But if I must lose my children, so be it. So the men packed Jacob's gifts and doubled the money and headed off with Benjamin. They finally arrived in Egypt and presented themselves to Joseph. When Joseph saw Benjamin with them, he said to the manager of his household, these men will eat with me this noon. Take them inside the palace. Then go slaughter an animal and prepare a big feast. So the man did as Joseph told him and took them into Joseph's palace. The brothers were terrified when they saw that they were being taken into Joseph's house. It's because of the money someone put in our sacks last time we were here, they said. He plans to pretend that we stole it. Then he will seize us, make us slaves, and take our donkeys. A feast at Joseph's palace. The brothers approached the manager of Joseph's household and spoke to him at the entrance to the palace. Sir, they said, we came to Egypt once before to buy food, but as we were returning home, we stopped for the night and opened our sacks. Then we discovered that each man's money, the exact amount paid, was in the top of his sack. Here it is. We have brought it back with us. We also have additional money to buy more food. We have no idea who put our money in our sacks. Relax. Don't be afraid, the household manager told them. Your God, the God of your father, must have put this treasure into your sacks. I know I received your payment. Then he released Simeon and brought him out to them. The manager then led the men into Joseph's palace. He gave them water to wash their feet and provided food for their donkeys. They were told they would be eating there, so they prepared their gifts for Joseph's arrival at noon. When Joseph came home, they gave him the gifts they had brought him, then bowed low to the ground before him. After greeting them, he asked, how is your father, the old man you spoke about? Is he still alive? Yes, they replied. Our father, your servant, is alive and well. And they bowed low again. Then Joseph looked at his brother Benjamin, the son of his own mother. Is this your youngest brother, the one you told me about? Joseph asked. May God be gracious to you, my son. Then Joseph hurried from the room because he was overcome with emotion for his brother. He went into his private room where he broke down and wept. After washing his face, he came back out, keeping himself under control. Then he ordered, bring out the food. The waiters served Joseph at his own table, and his brothers were served at a separate table. The Egyptians who ate with Joseph sat at their own table because Egyptians despise Hebrews and refuse to eat with them. Joseph told each of his brothers where to sit, and to their amazement, he seated them according to age, from oldest to youngest. And Joseph filled their plates with food from his own table, giving Benjamin 5 times as much as he gave the others. So they feasted and drank freely with
him. Thank you, Izzy. You're a sweetheart. Nah, you don't need to hide. You're sweet. It's taking a longer time for me to get up to $100 this time. Oh boy. Okay, you got a really good hiding spot and nobody will find you. Hey Izzy, when you come to my next live, don't say who you are. Let's see how many people try to figure out who you are. Try not to talk the way you talk in the chat. That'll be fun. And guess what my brother brought home for me, my dad? One for each of us. Another spinach calzone, but it's huge. It's this big. That's lunch. Because I think that would be fun, Izzy. Well, this like, oh, Arnie, don't say nothing. Arnie. Not now. I don't know when. I don't know. Not right now. My head is hurting. I gotta take my medicine. I gotta eat. Yeah, Arnie, don't say that's Izzy. And our next live, just play dumb. Because I want to play a joke on everybody. My head hurts. I gotta go eat. Actually, I might not eat. You want me to color? Oh, I'll have to start a new live, but I will color for like maybe until 10:30. Oh, thank you. Hey, my headache did go away. All right, we'll color for 10 minutes. Okay? Is that okay? 10 minutes. We'll color for 10 minutes. For Dizzy Izzy. I started this picture. Yeah, Arnie, let's play a joke on everybody. You too, Night Owl. Don't say nothing. I know you're just going to be listening this week, and that's all good, sweetheart. I think this was my first book of Johanna. No, oh, Magical Junk. No. Yeah, this is it. Yeah, because it was, well, actually, this is used. I don't know. See, I also started this one. Yeah. I did this one. No two flowers are the same, except for those two. Those are special. And that was done. Oh crap! I didn't do some of these. And that was done back in probably 2016. I'm gonna just date it 2016. 2016 question mark. That's the first page. Yeah, this whole book is pretty cool. I just have to find my page now. Yeah, this is the first picture. I mean, this is the first book. I got my money back. Right here, you can tell the square. It was started. I bought this book in my original pack of gel pens. I'm on my third pack since then. I got this in 2015. I think, was I? I wasn't even sleeping in the sunroom. I started sleeping in the sunroom either January or February of the next year. I got it. I got my. All right, you got me 10 minutes. Ah! Jesus. I said Jesus. I didn't say Jesus. Who cares? God forbid when I have to do the background. Yeah, you got me until quarter of. I'll give you 15 minutes. Yeah, I probably will wait to eat because spinach pie, baby. Vicky, how is Cookie doing? Is she still trying to eat your hand? I'm gonna call you Avi. I'm gonna call you Avia. Easy. Avia. When my brother says about the spinach pie being in the refrigerator, one for me, one for Dad. I'm like, yeah, but before he said one for each, I'm like, oh, we have to split. And then he goes, ooh, one for each. I'm like, yeah. But once this quarantine's over, I'm gonna be buckling down on my health. Yeah, every little bit helps. Avia. I don't even know how close I am. I'm probably halfway to 100. The second time I got paid, man, that's only because two people kept on donating, Jerry and Cajun, to see who won. That was fun. And I says, feel free to keep going. I think I put a stop to it, though. Avia, you know how many times you donated? You want me to count? Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay? And that's, it's all the same. They're 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40. That's when you did 10, 40. That's 50, 55, 60, $65 from you. But since they take 30% of that away, that's out of your money. I mean, like $5, because you put $5 in. It's less in American money. You know what I mean? Don't forget you did $10 once. I think. No, that's enough. There was this one person. He says, I'll check in on you every now and then, and when you do have your super chat, I'll definitely donate you to get your channel going. He says one time he donated $2,000 to a channel. I'm like, why? He says, why not? I'm like, oh my gosh. He says, I'll do the same to you since you're a small YouTuber. But you don't have super chat. I said, no, I'm sorry. And when that's what you do now already, it's fine. Hide so I don't get my bottom kicked. Oh, Avia. That's your new name. Oh. I have to learn to call you Avia. 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 Everybody will think that disappeared, runs and hides quietly. You already did hide by typing again. I know where you are. Kick, kick, kick. I just kicked you in your bum. Yeah, a lot of family don't let their kids say the word butt. They say bottom or bum. Oh, did I get your nads? Oh, sorry. Oh boy, that's not proper. Michelle, what's wrong with you? Lord, I am so sorry. I am so sorry. See how I get it out of hand with you, Avia? You get me in trouble. Yes, it is donation. Thank you so much. I wonder what's the most you can donate. I'm just curious. Don't try it. Oh, really? Holy cow. At a time. Would it be something and some rich people comes by and they all donate $500? Would that be crazy? I was so comfortable in my bed. I just wore my nightgown, not the pants. Okay, because the pants, I have to wear the pants because this nightgown's kind of short, and I live with two guys. So, um, the two guys are my brother, and my daddy. So anybody was wondering. Because one time I forgot to put them back on. My dad went, "Whoa!" I said, "Sorry, sorry. I just expected just to come down here to go to the bathroom and run back upstairs." And he says, "That's okay." Okay, Avia, I have to go. I have to get up, get dressed, get cleaned up. Okay? Are you listening to me? Love. Don't judge. Peace out. Love you, Owl.